Hello everyone, welcome to From the Star Wars Home Video Library. I'm your host Nathan P. Butler. We are beginning a handful of episodes here that I'm recording all at once that are sort of oddball items. Some will be supplemental to go back earlier in the playlist to give you another view on something I've added to the collection that pertains to something we've seen before, like the CEDs. This is an oddball batch leading up to a batch that'll be mostly about one thing. The next batch is Star Wars Laserdiscs. But for now, we pick up with some oddballs, and this one definitely fits that. It's sort of along the same lines as that Empire of Dreams Emmy screener we looked at recently. In May of 2007, one of the best received Star Wars documentaries in years aired on television. It's a program on the History Channel called Star Wars: The Legacy Revealed. Now, not really quite sure if the title entirely fits. It's sort of a cross between looking at the impact of Star Wars and looking at the mythological overtones and such that fed into it, kind of like Star Wars and History, Star Wars and Mythology. But it was a really well done special. And people have wanted it on home video for years. In fact, when the Complete Saga set came out in 2011, everybody thought that was something that should have shown up on that disc. Not so much. That documentary and spoofs disc, that number 9, nope. Not there at all. Turns out this is one that has never been officially released for sale on home video anywhere. But just like with Empire of Dreams, there is a way to get your hands on it. You just kind of have to be diligent and constantly checking places like eBay and whatnot. I actually got mine through the legitimate means without having to go to a secondary market, and that is through a screener. A screener that is sent out for review before it airs on television in this case, rather than an Emmy screener, though I believe an Emmy screener of this does exist also. I've just not seen one in person. Essentially what happened with this was leading up to that May 2007 airing on History Channel on May 28th, they decided they wanted to build up some hype for this. And to do so, they wanted to get different Star Wars fan websites to run reviews of the program to either show up right before or right after airing, so they could really get people interested and excited. Well, turns out I had one of the websites that they sent this out to. They sent it out to quite a few of us. It has left me with this in my collection here. Star Wars: The Legacy Revealed. But notice, that's not actually a DVD case cover. I actually open this thing up, and this is a letter, more or less. Folded up because, at the time, I didn't think of this as a collectible. Yeah, I probably should have. Yeah, not in the best of shape here. But it says, if I can read through parts that are starting to wear away, it says, "Hi." Yes, it actually starts "Hi." "Enclosed is the screener for Star Wars: The Legacy Revealed for you to review. Remember, the program is airing only on the History on May 31st at 9 p.m. Eastern." So I guess I had my date wrong. It is May 31st instead of May 28th. Although other sites are saying May 28th, so I wonder if they perhaps aired it multiple times. But yeah, it does say the program is airing only on The History. Remember, this is when it was known as the History Channel, but they were switching it to just History. So here it says the History Channel on the little logo up there in the corner, but they seem to have gotten their phrasing confused in the letter. "Please use this screener for composing a review for your site. Please let me know when you receive this, as well as when you expect your review to be live on your site. Please visit our asset page to help your posting," and gives a website to get some assets for it. "Please let me know if you have any questions. Enjoy," etc., etc. So an electronic press kit kind of thing attached to this. Now, it didn't actually come in a case. I just grabbed a case for it. The disc itself is pretty basic. Right here. So the History Channel up at the top. Star Wars: Legacy Revealed premiering May 28th. See, there's that date again. At 9 p.m. Eastern Time / Pacific Time. Contact, and has the contact information from back then for the press person. Now, interesting thing about this, if you feel it, obviously you can't from there, but take my word on this, feels like one of those things where it's sort of printed out in a label that's put on it off a computer as opposed to being a professional printing process. And if you look at the back, hard to kind of see there, purple. Essentially, we're sent out on DVD-Rs at the time, recordable DVDs, as opposed to being sent out on something professionally pressed, because there's a relatively limited number of these that they then sent out to these various websites. And you're probably thinking, "Oh, that's awesome! I want to check that out! That's so much better than watching it like on YouTube or something!" But not really. Because this was a pre-release screener, it's not really finished in a lot of ways. It does have a menu, which we're going to see is more than we can say for Star Wars Tech's official History Channel DVD. But it does have a quick little menu screen, just has a play button, that's all you can click. Goes straight into the special. Runs the same runtime as what you would have seen on television, but like I said, it's not entirely finished. Because it's a screener, you have the little runtime running across the bottom.
Star Wars came out, and we went to school the next day, unable to explain to our friends how everything was different now. Star Wars came out, and we went to school the next day, unable to explain to our friends how everything was different now.
And it's not just the runtime for the whole screen, the whole program. Anytime, well, most of the time, that they use little clips from something like news footage, clips from a film or anything, a lot of times not as one clip, but as maybe a montage of 4 or 5 different images playing on the screen at once, they tend to have the time code in those showing up also, or the little thing denoting, hey, this is licensed, this is legal, we're all good to go for this particular clip.
So much of my childhood was spent thinking, dreaming, watching, playing Star Wars.
And history.
What Star Wars did was bring them right up to date.
So much of my childhood was spent thinking, dreaming, watching, playing Star Wars.
And history.
What Star Wars did was bring them right up to date.
You'll also find that when they do interviews with people, the little subtitle type thing or little label underneath their name isn't always exactly the same. It might have different credentials or whatever, just depending on what you're looking at.
The country was desperately groping for real change. Star Wars came along and it revalidated a core mythology that there is good and evil. The country was desperately groping for real change. Star Wars came along and it revalidated a core mythology that there is good and evil.
There are some odd little moments, like for instance, a moment where they do kind of almost, it looks like a flash animation thing showing Flash Gordon images, and in the finished version on television it was all in color, and on the screener it's black and white art, which makes me wonder if it's original artwork that they created for it as opposed to grabbing it from old posters or something, because otherwise why would it be black and white in one, color in the other?
Star Wars was filled with imagery and characters that harkened back to many of the movies and books that had captivated George Lucas during his childhood in Modesto, California.
Star Wars was filled with imagery and characters that harkened back to many of the movies and books that had captivated George Lucas during his childhood in Modesto, California.
The biggest thing is that the narration is different. The narration on the History Channel program, when it aired on television, is that good, suave-sounding guy that you hear in a lot of History Channel-style specials, with that deep voice. He could almost be doing movie trailers, though it's not the same guy. Really nice-sounding, well-done audio. Not so much for the screener. It's a guy giving kind of a weak version of that same narration, worded almost exactly the same, not the same inflection sometimes, and it's like he's right up against the frickin' microphone, because anytime he makes a P sound, a lot of times there's a puff to the microphone, and it kind of poofs out of your speakers.
Star Wars was conceived by writer and director George Lucas during the early 1970s, a time of intense political upheaval and social unrest.
Star Wars was conceived by writer and director George Lucas during the early 1970s, a time of intense political upheaval and social unrest.
It is definitely not something that was designed to show off the finished product. That's why I'm assuming, I would hope, that this is at least slightly different perhaps than the Emmy screener that got sent out. Because at least in this case, it's an unfinished version just meant for review, whereas that you would think is an unfinished version meant to wow people into voting for it. You would hope that it wasn't, for instance, this guy narrating it. Not that his voice is particularly bad, but it's not that deep, suave voice, and he's too close to the microphone or something. And something cool that just kind of is an oddity added to my Star Wars collection. Personally, I would watch the aired version if you've recorded it or if you can find it on YouTube and such, where it usually can be found, because there is no official release of this thing. But if you want to get a copy, a real legitimate copy, the one way to get it, or one of two ways to get it, I guess, is as a screener. Either the Emmy one, or find one of these ones sent out to fan websites back in the day. With that, We'll wrap up this episode. Thank you for watching, and may the Force be with the home video viewers.